In this episode, I am joined by Dr. Nida Chenagtsang and Justin Von Bujdoss. Dr. Nida and Justin discuss the esoteric Dzogchen practices of trekchö and tögal and comment on their application to inner emotional disturbance and to times of external conflict and war. Dr. Nida and Justin extensively discuss the mysterious practice of dark retreat, in which the retreatant seals himself in complete darkness for days or weeks at a time, triggering powerful hallucinations which can be worked with using special techniques for spiritual advancement. Dr. Nida and Justin discuss the history of dark retreat, compare the differences in the various schools of its practice, warn of its dangers in terms of psychosis, and consider the potential that dark retreat offers for attaining Buddhist enlightenment. So without further ado, Dr. Nida Chenagtsang and Justin Von Bujdoss. Dr. Nida Chenagtsang and Justin Von Bujdoss, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so delighted to be talking with both of you at the same time, and you both are in the same place.
That's right.
We are at Pure Land Farms in LA.
Yes, and I understand, Dr. Nida, you've just returned from leading a pilgrimage in Bhutan with Ian Baker, a previous guest of this podcast, and in fact a dialogue partner of yours on this podcast. And I understand, Justin, you've just finished leading a week's trekchö retreat there at Pure Land Farms.
That's right. That's right. It's associated with Dr. Nida's commentary on Yuthok's Hatha Yoga cycle. The commentary is called Weapon of Light, Mirror of Light, I'm sorry. And we just finished, 7-day trekchö retreat as part of the coming to the end of this cycle of practice and study.
Very cool. I'm curious about trekchö, if you might say a little something about that. And I'm also curious, Dr. Nida, about your time in Bhutan.
Well, again, why don't you start with Bhutan? I think everybody...
The Bhutan trip was very nice. And I think, today there are many Buddhist practitioners, especially Vajrayana practitioners, So Bhutan is officially saying the only or the main Vajrayana country in the world now. And so I think it's the unique, Geomantic energy, the blessing of the land. As Padmasambhava said, in the past, great masters, they blessed the land. And now the land can bless the people. So, Ganzaki ne chinchilapa, negi ganzak chinchilap. So I think that really makes sense, You can really feel the presence of great masters and, especially like Guru Padmasambhava, Yeshe Tsogyal, Monmotashi Chinrin. And also you really feel like they are a blessing, So once you are there, you feel their blessing is inseparable from you, right? Which is called the Vajra state, It was great, Yeah,
I had the pleasure to be with Dr. Nida last year on the pilgrimage that happened in Bhutan. It was incredible, and it really is.
You had more thoughts or less thoughts?
I had less thoughts, which was good for my practice of trekchö. So the practice of trekchö, in one way of kind of thinking about it, maybe you could say Hatha Yoga has two cycles or two aspects, main aspects. One is trekchö and one is tögal. But tögal doesn't really make sense unless there's a good grounding in understanding the nature of mind and the nature of rigpa. And trekchö is really the kind of way of creating a nice stable foundation to be able to have a good relationship to the open, dynamic nature of awareness. And with that, if one is really stable in their practice, then tögal practices really help the practitioner to be able to, I guess you could say, stabilize and enhance that experience so that the rigpa state becomes increasingly clear and one's confidence becomes really strong in this. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Tibetan word of trekchö, Tek means something hard, right? Something solid and something hard. And this hardness, the solid things, we can find like in our material world, like maybe the diamond is the hardest one, right? And then we have metals like iron and then rocks, and there are many hard objects. So similar way, we have this hardness in our mind, right? So the hardness in the mind is the fixation. We have so much this kind of fixations, right? And once we are extremely fixed on something, actually that's becoming a blockage internally. It can be emotional blockage or mental blockage. And that's, stopping us, from the flexibility or opening and so on. So chöt means cutting through or free from that kind of solidness or the hardness, right? So, many people are having, for example, when you have a doubt, you are so much fixed on the doubt. Once there's an over-fixation of the doubt, and then you get stuck with the doubt, right? And so, like when we talk in the Madhyamika tradition, Madhyamika, why they are talking so much about the debate, right? The Dharma view, debating Dharma views. So because today we have so many fixations about our views and our ideas and so on, but it's good you debate that, right? Through the debating, or you understand the new views, or you accept the other views, or you let go your own views, right? So then you become more flexible. So I think this trekchö we can find in the Madhyamika and many different traditions too, And also maybe vipassana, when you scan your mind, you scan to feel your emotions or feelings or sensations, these things. So if you are able to scan it well, then you don't get stuck with this fixation, right? So I think that's all kind of similar, all meditations are talking same way. But I think this Tibetan word, the trekchö, I like it personally because it goes into the heart, right? So what is our mental, emotional problem? That's the fixation. And then what we need to do is we need to free from that fixation. It's like there's a blockage and we have to unblock that, Yeah. So this is my thing, I'm thinking more and more, maybe the more Dharma teachings, we should use all the original Sanskrit words or Tibetan words. And if we have this understanding of the original words, then the translation, maybe, how do you translate trekchö?
So when I think of it, I think of, they say cutting through hardness, but it's really like the hardness of conceptual thinking, of labeling, of, like you say, ideas, and how all of this makes us really individual. You're you, I'm me, let's fight. But trekchö is really, like you say, this way of resting out of the hardness. Through the hardness.
So, Steve, how do you translate that? Cutting through the hardness, or what is your understanding about that? If you have a difficulty of emotion, you get stuck there, you want to free yourself from that, how do you translate that?
Well, I'm not familiar personally with the practice, but I think as Lama Justin said, cutting through hardness, or sometimes cutting through solidity, it's often translated like that. Yeah.
Well, I think, I'm sure, you said you're not familiar with this practice, but I think you know this practice, right? Because in an emotional way, we all have emotional blockages, we have to come over through those blockages. And
yeah, no, definitely.
I want to ask you back the questions. So that's why I have this kind of new idea, when we talk about the translators, right? There are great translators in the past, and today there are also amazing good translators. And every translators they come up with good ideas and they try their best to translate and in a precise way, So, of course, maybe one person's very precise translation works maybe for a certain group of people, but maybe not for everyone, So therefore, I'm really now more and more coming up the idea of, we explain the word by word, and then how to really you translate, it's up to you, So this is my kind of new way of approach. I'm not disrespecting the translators. They're great translators, but some translators, they become very poetic. Some of them, they become very technical, and some of them, they want to be very precise. So especially if we talk about trekchö and Dzogpa Chenpo, because if you read the original words from Longchenpa, it's so fluid, right? Yes. It's like the oxygen, it's everywhere, We are inhaling, we even don't realize we are inhaling. So his words and teachings are like that. It's kind of like pervasive, or like a river is flowing, like a rain is pouring down. It's kind of, there's lots of natural flow in Tibetan. And I know my English has a limitation, but when I try to read in English, then I get the hardness. I get hardness. But then I understand also some translators, they kind of use that kind of very precision, some words. Some of them, they have so much fixations about how to sound it nice, how to make it more fluid, Then at the end, I have this feeling of we kind of get lost in the translations. So that's why also yesterday we were talking about the Rigpa. I thought best translation of Rigpa is come from you, Of course, whatever you think Rigpa is good, and that's your own starting point, right?
Well, it's like trekchö and Rigpa as a medicine, right? Everybody's a little different. The way they suffer is a little different. The way their mind gets stuck is a little different. And so everybody needs to be able to find their that right balance. Yeah.
So when you free your difficult emotions, how do you call that?
What do I do to free difficult emotions? Are you really asking me that question?
Yeah, of course.
I think one can either go in or out. One can either broaden the context of one's awareness, if you like. That works quite well, going big. Or going in and merging, in a sense, or seeing through the experience of the emotional reaction. And then it becomes almost quite often freed from its particular emotional valence, becomes joyous or humorous often, difficult to hold on to, difficult to stay fixed to. That will be my best attempt, but I'm no Dzogchenpa, I must say.
No, that's good. You are. Actually, you are. You see the trekchö, your translation become one page. That's good. So for some people it can be one word, for some people it can be one page, for many people it can be 100 pages. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right, the same word when we talk about Buddhism, sometimes we are talking about Buddhism, maybe we are out of that word of Buddha. So, right, Buddhism is more talking about awakened state. So anyway, never mind. Sorry for asking you difficult questions. You are the interviewer.
Well, I'm sorry for giving poor answers. But as you say, I'm better on the question side. So when you talk about this trekchö and this idea of cutting through fixedness or solidness, or however we might translate it, I can't help but think of the time that we're living in at this point. We're recording this in November 2023. And this is right around the time when conflict in the Middle East, Palestine, has occurred. And when people listen to this at another time in the future, no doubt conflict will be happening somewhere too. And one thing that seems to be happening with this conflict is a great pressure to take sides. Are you on this side or that side? What would you say, is trekchö relevant in a situation like that? Do you have anything you could say to the situation in the Middle East and the way it's rippling out and the way people are reacting to it? Is that the sort of subject that might be relevant?
That's exactly the human ideas and the human political views and the human divided nationalistic views, right? So all these things is solidified, become so hard, so becoming like a rock. And then two rocks are coming together, they clash. That's exact, we can understand in the context of the trekchö. So if there are two rocks rolling together, they clash and both get damaged and, both get broken, right? This is exactly what happening with war. And there are two group of people, they are fighting. They both have their own reasons and they are all historical views, but at the end there's a different views. And both side is so solidified, For us, it's difficult to analyze. It takes time to judging them. But the really problem is the clash between two big rocks. But then if you think, if these rocks are becoming rivers, right? Two rivers are clashing together, what happens? They union together, they join together, they become a stronger river, right? So I think I don't know, this metaphor is clear or not. That's exactly what I think about in general, our all human conflict, right? The conflict between two countries or two nationalities, the nature is the same, the conflict between two people, right? And a very small scale is two people's fight. In a large scale is becoming a fight of two countries.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the large scale is many people are suffering, right? Get killed and, murdered and die and lost and creating so many sufferings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the part of the United States that I live in, Brooklyn, New York City has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. And the neighborhood I live in has one of the largest Palestinian populations inside the United States. And you see now in particular, all of these protests shutting down different parts of the city. And people, as you say, Steve, people are feeling, they're not even feeling it. People are telling everybody, pick a side. And like Dr. Nida says, all this kind of bifurcation is only going to create more conflict. And there's so much fear as well. You can't possibly believe the other side is right. You have to believe what I think or what I say. And we see this in universities now where people, are being silenced in sometimes even just having a view that there should be a ceasefire. I kind of feel like trekchö was almost made for these times, almost like Guru Rinpoche was like, obviously there's been valence and an important aspect to it throughout time. But now for all of these problems we see, whether it's what's happening in the Middle East or what's happening in Ukraine or the environmental crisis, these ideas where I am a human, I get to do whatever I want to nature, that's also a binary. All of these binaries are causing these problems. And it might be that one of the best ways to solve some of these problems is to be able to cut through these ideas, right? Cut through the sense of myself as a solid, person who has right to this land that you don't have, or who can do this to the land because I feel like it. And that is, it's interesting teaching trekchö because it seems like more and more people are becoming interested in it because they can feel the power of the release. When they can release some of the things that they're really attached to or struggling with, they can feel spaciousness and they feel it in their body. And this is something that I've really noticed a lot of people saying, and it really does become this this kind of medicine for the mind, but also I think a medicine that can help transform the way we relate to one another.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Dr. Nida was talking yesterday on the last day of the retreat about meditation as medicine. And I still remember I was here with Dr. Nida, I think, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And he was I think you're telling me about Drakpa Nongshe and how when he started to study with I think it was either Sowa Rigpa or with a teacher who was a Sowa Rigpa teacher, how his meditation changed. And I feel like this has been helping me to be able to understand that it's not only about the mind, it's about, you know, the entirety of being, including the way we are in the world, the way we think about the world, the way we're in harmony or disharmony with the world. So I think of it as a very profound medicine.
Very penetrative medicine.
yes. Yes, the heart of the head.
It penetrates from body to energy to mind.
Yeah. What do you think about meditation as medicine?
Yeah, of course. This is exact original Buddhist view. There are 84,000 kleshas, and there are 84,000 dharmas, right?
Yeah.
So kleshas are the disease and dharmas are medicines.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, original Buddha's view.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also, so it's interesting, Steve, you are asking the question. We are talking about the trekchö and Dzogpa Chenpo. You are bringing the political, the current political conflict, in this interview, right? So many people, if you ask these things, it's nothing to do with us, right? It's something happening in the Middle East. It's something happening in Ukraine, in Russia. It's like we are out of these problems, right? So I think then sometimes also people have this kind of, okay, we are Buddhist and we are this special practitioners and, we cannot do anything. We don't want to interact and this and that. Of course, political views, there's always complications. And myself, I'm not interested in any political conflict and views, this and that. But unfortunately, the political situation is becoming a condition of our daily life. We are conditioned by the politics, decisions and views and controls and conditions and so on. So I think to make Dharma, it's a more accessible, or more make it part of our daily life. I think to bringing our own experiences, Dharma experiences, and also bringing into our life and using this path to try to understand what is happening in the world, and about the fight, about conflict, and how, people are out of the control of their own emotions, right? Like accumulation, if you think of the Israel and Palestinians, the conflict is accumulation of thousands of years of emotions, right? Mm. The hatred, the anger, and the rage. It's not just happened because of, past the 10 years problem, 20 years problem, or 100-year problem. It's accumulation of thousands of years of this kind of human emotional accumulation. And so people are unable to work, how to process, how to purge, how to purify, how to liberate from the emotions, right? There was a lack of this kind of method, how to free yourself from these emotional accumulations and then becoming huge accumulations of blockages, right? Then, of course, like generation to generation accumulated. And the rage and anger is so powerful, so explosive. So I think this is exactly like emotionally what happened, right? But if maybe those people, especially the people involved in the higher powers, if they are more trained in trekchö, yes. If they have more like a little bit gentle, softer view, about instead of having a very strong nationalistic views, national identities, if they focus more on the the humanness. I think maybe the conflicts are much softer, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we don't really value being soft these days in the world, right? Soft, a little passive, gentle, receptive. Every day now.
And also, as you said, we have to take the part, you know, or you're a friend or you're enemy.
Yeah, exactly. Pick a side. Pick a side. And, you know, the person who doesn't pick a side sometimes isn't trusted, you know, and I think that this is also it speaks to the complexity, but I think it also speaks to the necessity, right? This is in one way, you know, Hatha yoga and trekchö is a very powerful medicine. And it's also very personal, you know, it's a medicine that solves a very personal problem, like what my blockage is, what my hardness is. Maybe you can broadly speak about it, but how it manifests is very unique.
Yeah. Everything can get softened, you know. Yes. I can understand really this fixation on, how do you say, nationalism, nationalistic, you know. When I grew up in Tibet and, you know, I can understand all the emotions, how you accumulate, you know, how you build up and how you are how you grew up in your environment, in your culture, in your tradition, and how much you feel the outer pressures and conditions. I can understand the things, you know. And then, you know, you need to pick up your side and you have to fight with somebody, this. But I think once you are kind of really trained, when you see things in a different way, especially, you know, our own emotions and how we are solidifying ourselves. And I think with the practice, there's always a way to really make it softer and gentle and passive, you know. So maybe those are the main, our human steps that we make ourselves peaceful.
Yeah.
And we can achieve, I think it's unconditional peace, right? Internal peace. So once we are able to build this kind of individual internal peace, and then when we come as a group, and then we have this collective peace, and then both sides, they have collective, this inner peace, and then to meeting another group is becoming two rivers are meeting together, it becomes one river, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, I think the solution is we should spread more teachings,
more
teachings and more practices.
Yeah, more Hatha yoga. Yeah.
I'm curious if one side, if you like, if one person has trekchö, has applied this this softening, but one's enemy has not. If a country has softened its nationalism, but its neighbor has not, is there a danger of the softened one being at the mercy of the, shall we say, less enlightened, harder neighbor?
Everything has a price, right? If you stay solid and conflict fight has a price. If you become soft, you accept what happens to you. It has a price too. But end of day, I think both becoming peaceful, both are becoming a river. That's the best solution. But at least one side is a river, one side is a rock, you know, throwing the rocks in the river, right? Throwing so many rocks in the river, it sends the river is blocked or damaged. The river can never stop, you know. I think that's also our human nature. If you are so strong, so tolerant, you are able to accept, and really your final goal is the long-lasting, you know, kind of peace or generations of peace. Peace. If one side is becoming the river, receiving other sides the rocks, and in a way, maybe the river is kind of, how do you say, blocked or interrupted, this and that. But in a long term, still a giant river with the many rocks, rocky river, how do you call it?
Rapids?
Like this. But then I think because of this part of the rivers, patient and this kind of energy, gentleness is so powerful. The other sides, maybe the rocks, the other generations are becoming river too. So I can say that in a kind of metaphoric way, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because I could be wrong about this, but the way I remember, you know, Ashoka's story, how he came to Dharma, was he had been an emperor and he fought this brutal war against the neighboring kingdom, was it Kalinga? And all of these people were killed, you know, and the story of him wandering through the battlefield, and he won, but he saw what happened. He saw all of the death, he saw all of the destruction, and this changed his heart. And we see the same kind of thing in nonviolent protest response to things, so civil rights movement in the United States or in South Africa, where the fluid side is able to be fluid and is non-aggressive, and the aggressor becomes more aggressive and more aggressive and more aggressive, and this causes its own people to see how wrong their actions are. So sometimes even with our own anger, we can become more and more and more angry, more angry, more angry. But then we will notice some moment where we've gone too far, you know? So I think that I understand the fear of if one side gets too passive or too expansive or too much like a river, what is the other side going to do? And like you say, Dr. Nida, it will throw rocks and throw rocks and throw rocks and until it itself also dissolves. But it's not a very beautiful process when we're talking about nation states, because it means that the aggressor needs to recognize how it has been wrong, or its own people say, no, we can't do this anymore. And you even see this a little bit in Russia, right? Where people are like, no, this is too much. This is too much. This is too much. And you even see this in you know, in this current conflict, you know, where you have a lot of people in Israel who are calling for ceasefire. You know, that it's almost like it causes compassion to generate.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights and thoughts on that subject. We originally planned to come here to talk about dark retreat. Dark retreat.
You are the one started the political conflict.
And both of you have discussed dark retreat to some extent on this podcast. Justin, we did a quite in-depth episode indeed on your remarkable dark retreat experiences under the guidance of Dr. Nida. And following, in fact, I believe, Dr. Nida, your own terma, your own composition of dark retreat instructions, and I'd be very curious to ask about that. I wonder, Dr. Nida, if you might, I suppose we start chronologically, if you might say something about your background in retreat, in dark retreat, that is. You said that dark retreat, you described it as one of the most experiential meditation practices in the Buddhist tradition.
Okay, so firstly, you said something, my dharma, and so I don't call it my dharma, it's my commentary. And so this is my new book, actually I call it a commentary of Mahāmudrā and Dzogchen Chenpo in Tibetan. So when I was in the retreat, so I think you interviewed me after my retreat. So during that and post that retreat, I wrote this commentary about Yuthok's Mahāmudrā, and then the essential instruction about Karma Mudra, and then the trekchö, the Yuthok's Dzogchen Chenpo, and also dark retreat. So there's one chapter is about dark retreat. So I wrote it here. It's in Tibetan. And so here, actually, I wrote about, Yeah, maybe my experience, and I go with a little bit about the book, what I wrote here. So first I wrote about a general introduction, what is the dark retreat? And dark retreat is part of this Dzogpa Chenpo tradition's second part. There's trekchö, and then there's tögal. So tö means the skull, this skull, the forehead, right? Topa is this. The whole skull is called topa too, but especially this area. Gat means crossing. So something coming out, crossing out your skull, and then you have the visions and views and so on. So that tögal has actually three kinds of tögal. First, we call it the gatel, means the white teaching, white teaching. That the white refers to the light, with light teaching, tögal gatel. And then second one is called the muntel, means the dark teachings. Dark teaching is the dark retreat. And then the other one is called the tatil. Tatil means mixed colors, white and black together. And that is daytime you have the training with sunlight, and the night you do the practice with moonlight or butter lamp. Traditionally it's butter lamp, but now we can use even the light, the light is very good. And so there are three kind of traditions, or three way of teaching. But normally, first we are introduced to this light teaching, to practice with the sunlight in the morning early and late afternoon. So when I was in Lhasa, we received this teaching according to Truma Nagmo's tradition, Dunjum Tersar, It's called the tögal Mengaronso. Mengaronso is the lake of the instructions, like oral instructions. So we received that. We are only four people, and then we get this training every day and evening. We did a lot that one, and then sometimes with the butter lamp and the moonlight. Moonlight is not that easy, because then you have to be a certain point. Like sunlight every morning, if the sun is there, you can do it, right? Evening too. But moonlight, because of the moon phases, not that easy. When you have to wait for close to full moon, and after full moon, you have good light and practice. But butter lamp is quite easy, So I did that a lot as a basic practice. So then in my text, actually, first I'm just talking about that basic introduction, what dark retreat is. And then the second part is the history of the dark retreat. So in the history of dark retreat, actually, it is kind of interesting because, I still have some questions about the history of dark retreat.
What are you curious about?
What
are you curious about?
I'm interested because, the most famous dark retreat text from Nyingma tradition. In the Bombo tradition, they have dark retreat too. That is another big topic to discuss, Who is the first, right? The hen or the egg? It's a similar story, Nyingma's Dzogchen is first, or Bombo is first. There are lots of talks.
Yeah.
And only the real trekchö practitioners, they don't talk much. But some people with the idea of the hardness, and they really want to prove that why it's coming from bone or why it's not from bone. There are so many discussions. That part, I didn't want to go there. But then in the Nyingma tradition, the interesting part is the most famous, this dark retreat text is called, probably it's called Dzogpa Chenpo Yangti Nakpo Serchen Ruchi, the golden single syllable. Right, golden single syllable. Yangti Nakpo, Yangti, we have Ati. The Ati means Dzogchen, Ati Yoga, and then we have Yangti, and then we have Chiti, the T, there are three of them. And especially, I think Sangye Lingpa's, the Dzogchen teaching, he talks about these three types of tea, Yangti, Ati, Yangti, Chiti. So this Yangti especially referred about dark retreat. And so if we check this single golden syllable, the story, it has two lineages. One is this far lineage, one is closer lineage. And the far lineage coming from the Buddha Samandabhadra, and then Vajradhara, then Vajrasattva, then Garav Dorje, then Jampalshinyan, Shri Singha, then Guru Pamasambhava, Yeshe Tsojel, then Bimala Mita, Berochana, and then Berochana's hard disciple, Yudra Nyingpo, Yudra Nyingpo, and then Lama Gelong Dorje, Hari Dorje, Sanji Dorje, Kasan Dorje, Jensen Jabo, Zonjini. So then it's that long one. And then the short one, again, is coming from, it's similar, these lineages. But the ones they revealed, this Dharma teaching is, Dharma teaching was in the, how do you say, Tongso Rupa. Have you heard about Tongso Rupa? So there are two, the previous Tongso Ripa and the second, the Tongso Ripa. Tongso Ripa is actually, in the Nyingma tradition, he was the king of the dark retreat, right? But according to the date, in the lineage, we can see, there's Samandabhadra, Vajradhara, and Vajrasattva, all the great Buddhas. And then the human, then there's Pamasambhava, so 7th century, 8th century, all these things, right? But then actually the Dharma itself revealed that date, Yutok's date, Yuthok, Yuthok the younger. Here we have Yuthok Yundengombo. It's Yuthok's dark retreat was in the 12th century. So it means the Yuthok dark retreat actually is quite early, than other Dharma traditions. So that's why this is, for me, historically, I thought this is a kind of very interesting, Of course, Yuthok's teachings, we call Yuthok's teachings in Dharmas, because he received the teachings from Shirimala Pelden Tringwa, the Dakini. And sometimes they consider that Dakini same as Mandarawa. And then, but also we can find many the Yuthok's teachings. Yuthok Nyingma is coming from himself. He composed, he wrote the teachings too, right? So I think it's kind of his work and Dharma together, mixed together. So that's why I'm really interested in this origin of the Yuthok's dark retreat. It might be one of the earliest dark retreat. That's what I'm thinking. So that's why in the historical, when I wrote, I had kind of insight questions. Normally, traditionally, we don't ask these questions. There's a lineage, we do the lineage, master's prayers, this. So sometimes it's interesting to look also a little bit in a research style, I'm saying this because also when we use the word of Nyingtik, right? The Nyingtik tradition, the heart essence or heart drop teachings. So now most of the famous, we have the Longchen Nyingtik, and then we have Longsel Nyingtik, and then we have this Karma Nyingtik, and then we have Bima Nyingtik, the Nyingtik Yashi, the four Nyingtiks and these things. And if we say that Bima Nyingtik and Bima Lamitra was 8th century, but historically it says that he taught these teachings. But later the Nyingtiks revealed as a Dharma, right, or composed by Longchenpa. But Yuthok Yundengombo was earlier than Longchenpa, So that's why his way, Yuthok's way of representing Dzogpa Chenpo is a little bit different than Longchenpa, okay? And so earlier than Longchenpa. And then, so that's why actually it is kind of interesting. Of course, since the Longchenpa, the Dzogpa Chenpo is becoming very popular in Tibet, it's becoming so popular, and then so many great masters they taught, and also so many tertons that they revealed, right? But if we are kind of honest, many termas they're very similar, right? They reveal the similar things again in different centuries. So that's why also when we talk about Nyingtik tradition, it seems Yuthok Nyingtik is one of the earliest Nyingtik, So that actually, that's an interesting thing too.
Mhm.
And then the historical thing, the dark retreat is not only Nyingma, but we have this dark retreat. And also in Kalachakra Tantra, they have the dark retreat. And Kalachakra Tantra's dark retreat, the visions, they call it Tongzuk. Tongzuk means the empty form, right? So this Tongzuk, the empty form, is exactly like a vision, or exactly like the hallucination, right? You have a hallucination, you are seeing something, and meanwhile, also this is just your hallucination, your projection. There's nothing concretely exists, right? So Bimzu means the real object. This is a Bimzu. There's an object. It's a tangible, right? It's a tangible. It's a visible. And so that's a Bimzu. It's like the object form. But then empty form, the Tongzu means you see something, but it's intangible, right? So it's very similar to the vision or the hallucinations. And then Kalachakra Tantra actually talks about this. And with this, Kalachakra Tantra talks also about, when we talk about this, the visions, then Kalachakra Tantra focus on the dark retreat, So you do dark retreat, and then you have the visions. And then the visions, you are having visions, right? You have to be lucid. So like Justin is saying, if you don't have the good foundation of trekchö, you do the dark retreat, you have visions, and then maybe you get scared and so on. Actually, that was my personal experience, I thought I was not that scared, but then sometimes when our inner deep things come, and especially the things related with your very close people, right, like parents and these things, sometimes something triggers, right? So that's why this Kalachakra Tantras, this Tongzu, and you understand it's a vision, it's a visionary thing, it's not real. But then that also helps us to understand this energy can have a form, energy can have a color, right? But then, normally we talk so much about energy. So in the Tongzu, that's the becoming form of the energy or the color of energy, you see that. But then Kalachakra says, don't follow that. Because if you follow the visions, it's more like, you follow your hallucination. And that's like a kind of side track, Then you really don't fix on the meditation, okay? So the view of Kalachakra and the Nyingma school's dark retreat a little bit similar, right? No, not similar, a little bit different, the view. One says you have a vision, and that's your projection, or that's your energy, and you can call it also your wisdom. But that's also the destruction. If you follow the destruction, it will bring you to the wrong path. Mm-hmm. But other one says it's your energy, it's the color and the form. You don't avoid that, and you try to see through, to see the nature and essence of that, right? So it's like a dream, We talk about lucid dreaming, and one says, okay, you see a dream, and in the dream, everything is your mental projection. Now you don't follow the dream, right? So you have an inner vision, dream visions, and don't follow that. You have a vision. If you follow too much in the dream, you get lost in the dream. So that's Kalachakra's view. But then the Nyingma's view says, you see a dream, and you become lucid. It's your dream. So it's a transformable. You can transform it, you can multiply it, you can purify it, and you can use it in a skillful way, because when you use your dream, you're playing with your energy, right? And you are also you exercising, your mind, and subtle energy and this and that. And through that, you can get liberation and different understanding, about everything, about mind and so on. So something like that, Kala Chakra's dark retreat and the Nyingma's dark retreat a little bit different. So I'm super interested in these two different views about dark retreat, because Yuthok's dark retreat is close to both of them. Mm-hmm. Okay? So for me, it's really, Yuthok is saying, actually, it is the same. And he put two traditions putting together. This is the reason why I'm saying, like, Yuthok is a non-sectarian practice. Is not only, we are just saying non-sectarian because it includes everything, but non-sectarian in a very skillful way, because if you do the dark retreat, you experience that Kala Chakra's explanation, and you experience that Guya Samaja doesn't talk about dark retreat, but they talk about how to work with the speech. It's called isolation of the speech, or the working with the deep silent speech, something like that. So that part of expression, explanation, and this Yuthok's dark retreat, exactly the same, And then, the most famous, the dark retreat, what we are practicing now is from Nyingma tradition, right? From Nyingma tradition. So that's, I said, the Tongso Ripa, and then there is one coming from Trishik Lingpa, and that's in the 19th century. So he revealed the second Dharma, second Dharma of the dark retreat. And so that Trishik Rinpoche's dark retreat actually went to this great yogini, my teacher's teacher, Ani Lochen. So my teacher's teacher, and she was the one of the main person who received all teachings from the dark retreat. And then my teacher's teacher, dark retreat becoming one of her main practice, and then she transmitted, her main disciples, including my teacher and so on, my teacher, Ani Ngawan Jensen, the nun. So that's why I wrote a short part of the history, historical master of dark retreat, because we don't find much information publicly. I thought that's important, And then I wrote this, it's called 10 special characteristics of dark retreat. Okay, so I said one of the most experiential meditation is dark retreat. Actually, this is the one of these 10 characteristics. Okay, so we don't need to go through one by one. In a very simple way, it says mostly, in the Vajrayana, we visualize ourselves as the deity, and we visualize the channels and energy and colors, forms, and many things. And actually, the dark teaching says most of the texts are talking about imaginations and visualizations. And here says dark retreat is the direct experience. You're not imagining or visualizing, and you feel and you experience directly, right? So one is just talking, and one is seeing. It's different, right? So, for example, he's talking about this. I wrote, so this, the explanation, the compared to with other practices and so on. And then the next one is about Mushi Nyamlin, the actual practice. So then the famous practice, the 7 steps of the practice can be for 7 days. And can be for 7 days. And then this practice can be for 49 days. So it depends on the practitioners, the base, and the merit and many things. So, or you do every step in every day, like 24 hours, you finish in 7 days, or you do, we call it the gradual one, is the one practice for 7 days. So 7 is for 49 days. You did the first 7 days and second 49 days.
Yeah, and then more. Yeah. But yeah,
of
first,
course,
but first, the way it relates to the Tumo, this first one.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So how many times did you do?
5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
do you need the eyeglasses in the dark?
No. No. What about your teacher for dark retreat?
Oh, my teacher, yeah, the dark retreat, actually, one of my dark retreat is called, he's from Amdo, Karjil Kulu. And yeah, he has this 2 dark retreat teachings. We call it the Kamjul and Ujul. Kamjul is the lineage coming from Eastern Tibet, or from Kamba region. Another one is Ujul Utsam in Central Tibet, the teaching coming from the Central Tibet. So he has both these lineages, having both sides. When we say about our teachers or gurus, there are 2 types of. Normally, we say there are 2 types of teacher, and the one teacher give you empowerment, then give you instructions, and then explains the tantric teachings and so on, right? It's mostly like our normal education system, right? You receive empowerment, then you are explained, and then instructions, then you practice, then slowly, you practice and so on. And this my teacher, the Karjil Kulotsang, he has this nature of this Mahasiddha style, yeah. So we call Kepe Luk. Kepe Luk means the scholar style, right? That's, scholars explain us the tantras and teachings and very precisely. And then the Tup Luk, the Mahasiddha style, is they give very essential teachings, right? So very often we can see in the Dzogchen teaching, many masters, they are giving these Mahasiddha styles. That Mahasiddha style is called the direct Rigpa introduction and so on. And this my teacher, he was very this Mahasiddha style, Mahasiddha style. And when I went to meet him, he was very solid, not much talking and this and that, very impressive. And then later I was really amazed, because just one day ago when I went there, just maybe one day before, his son passed away. His son had a car accident or something, this and that. And then somebody, when we are receiving teaching, somebody come and somebody says, "Oh, I'm sorry, like you are same as like you are a son, it's passed away and this and that." Then I was a little bit shocked. I said, like, what? I didn't know these things. I was feeling bad too, I didn't know the pastor lost his son, master lost his son, and all the things. And then he said, "Oh yeah, in the Dharma practitioner, we meditate on impermanent every day." He said, "This is a part of my practice, everything is impermanent, including my son and this and that." He says, "Dharma is in action, that's what I'm experiencing." And then, of course, he did all his power practice, this and that. So my master was like that. And when he gave and then he told us his own dark retreat story. Actually, he did first one was 6 months. He was locked in a dark room by his master. It's called the Mahasiddha style. And he said in the first days, he was maybe he was 15 or 16 years old. He was a young boy. He said he was so bored and he didn't want to come out. No, he wanted to come out. He didn't want to stay, because literally he felt he was prisoned in the dark, And but then later he started to have the visions. He said he was out of the time. He didn't know 6 months passed already. And so many visions and this and that. After 6 months, his master asked him to come out. He didn't want to get out. He was having so much fun. When he said that later, what I was thinking like 16 years old boy in the dark for 6 months. And he said all these his visions, like the infinite space and lights and Buddha, this and that. I was thinking maybe for him was like 6 months of video game. 6 months of free video game. He enjoyed so much and he didn't want to come out. So I was thinking about that. So that's why my master, the way how he taught us, it's very, very different, right? When he was talking about Rigpa, first he criticized about 7 treasures of Longchenpa. He asked me, do you know the 7 treasures of Longchenpa, Longchen? So I was a kind of very proud young yogi. Then I said, yes, I was talking I'm making the list in my head. Yes, I know them. Like they are the top Dzogpa Chenpo books, text and this and that. And then he looked at me. He said, they are all poems. And then it's actually, he shocked me. My respect for Longchen, I said he's the greatest Dzogchen practitioner, how he can be a poet. So in Tibetan, poet means like they just do blah, blah, right? It doesn't mean nothing, you're artist, this and that. And he said they're all poems. So I was completely kind of like shocked. And then he gave us instruction of the Rigpa. Yeah, actually that was one of the most experiential Rigpa transmission for me, because I think shock works, right? And also to breaking down my pride and kind of my hardness of the 7 treasures. They are the top ones, my ego, yes, I know them, and making their list and all the things. I think many things together, when he said they're all poems. And then he said, I had 7 treasures and the Rinchen Terjul, the collection of Dharma teachings. And he said, I buried all of them. Okay. So another shock, like we are all talking about libraries, making books and publishing like this. He said, I buried all my books. So in Tibetan, it's not that negative way. Terla be means I made them terma. It means he sealed them. He put in the box and he dig the earth and he actually buried, right? So it's a hidden like the termas, terla be. And then he said, now I'm free from the books. So I was actually when young, very kind of craving intellectual things and learning and this and that. I can still see my young age notes, I thought I was not that precise. I was a very precise, very studious student, So yeah, he actually shocked me in a different way. And then the way, I think, like I had to remove my mask, the mask of pride and the mask of the how do you say, the mask of the knowing many things and kind of getting lost and unable to putting them together. He emptied my head, and then he gave us the Rigpa introduction and then the very essential instructions of the dark retreat and so on. Okay. So that's why, when he was giving these instructions, it's very, how do you say? That time and the space is completely transformed. When he said there's no text, when there are no this and that, everything is becoming blank. But that kind of blank state, it was a daytime, but for me that was dark too. Right? In the darkness, Master is manifesting as a vision And vision is this. Yeah, actually, that I received many teachings. That one is one of the most experiential teachings. So then I realized the empowerment and teaching and words all in one, the way how he transmitted. And also he was saying now there are so few people are practicing those precious teachings, And then he was giving the example of the very famous Vajrayana example, the milk of the line, lineness. Have you ever drank lineness milk?
No.
He said no.
Yes.
The dark retreat. Yes. Exactly. He drank it 5 times.
5 times.
And one is for 49 days, and now he's saying no. You see, the logic person. So he was telling me that, that is not every container can hold the milk of the lineness,
Yeah.
And this is the example and this and that. And yeah, it was really amazing. So that's why, in a way, in an essential way, the way how he transmitted us, the dark retreat, is it's a very experiential. The teaching itself was really, stripping or emptying completely the mind. And then, what do you say? Is not, he put the Rigpa in me, but his experience, exactly like what the Longchenpa pointed, something is always there, it cannot be created nor destroyed, right? That like ever-present and openness, awareness, and so on. And yeah, then during that, we call it the 10 different signs of Dzogchen and these things. So normally when you go to the dark retreat and then you have the signs and then this and that, that's called the Rimchipa. Rimchipa means the gradual experiences. But when you really meet great teachers like this, we call it the Jikcherpa. Jikcherpa means all in one, right? Empowerment is there, teaching is there, retreat is there, and experiences are there. So Jikcherpa, I don't like to say much about the Jikcherpa. It's instant realization. I think maybe to talk too much about the Jikcherpa, maybe people can easy to misunderstand, right? Because this like kind of instant realization, instant realization is instant food, right? Faster food. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to have faster food. Okay, if there's instant liberation, I want that. I don't want others. So I think that's a kind of, it's maybe dangerous to say publicly too many things, these things. I don't say much normally, But I know those teachings are, the what really Jikcherpa means, the instant means. Actually in Mahāmudrā, they use this word too, right?
Yes.
Jikcherpa, the instant liberation, they use that word too. There is a Rumi's word, this Islamic poet.
Yes.
He says, you are not a drop of the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. So I like his expression. Have you heard that, Steve?
I have heard that one, yes. It's a very beautiful phrase.
You are a drop of ocean. The whole ocean is in one drop. Actually, the Jikcherpa's feeling is like that. That's why I like Rumi. He is a poet, and I'm sure he has inside realization too. It's a kind of, we see ourselves as a drop of the ocean, right? As an individual, this and that. But Jikcherpa means the instantly you realizing that a drop of water is the entire ocean or entire universe, So yeah, that's one of the most powerful practices. But then, of course, these experiences you need to put in the practice and to stabilize, right? And so on. So then I put this practice, and then in my book there's another part, then the signs of the the signs of the practices. So this the golden single word, that text talks about what are your signs, what visions you're supposed to have, and explains those things. And you had actually that text too, no?
Yes. Yes.
Where did you get that text?
From some siddha from you. You sent me.
No, the old Pecha.
Oh, the old Pecha. Yes, yes, from Pating Rinpoche. And Pating Rinpoche was he lived in Sikkim. He died in 2007. He was a student of Ani Lochen.
Oh, it's then the same tradition.
Same. Yeah, when we first met, I showed it to you and you said, yes, we're related.
Yeah.
Like this, yeah. So the same tradition.
Mm-hmm. Who is that Pating Rinpoche?
Pating.
This is the one you said Ani Lochen's disciple.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. He was in Sikkim, right?
He came to Sikkim in like late 1930s. So he missed the whole Chinese thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then he lived in Sikkim.
He lived in Sikkim.
And then?
But he was from Tibet, and
So he was Nyingma.
He was young.
Kajupa.
He was mostly Nyingma, but also practiced Kaju.
Mm-hmm.
He liked to say, I practice everything.
Mm-hmm. Rime.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So he gave you the Pecha.
Yes. And then he said, I will I asked him, will you teach me? And he said, yes. And before everything came together, he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When he passed away?
2007.
2007.
And I went to go see him.
How old was he?
He was in his 90s.
90s.
Yeah.
My teacher, the Anila, she passed away 2006. She was 92.
Yeah.
So they're similar
generation. They probably knew each other because your teacher was like Ani Lochen's
hardness.
Yes. So she probably knew.
I'm sure they knew each other. Yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah. Actually, that's our mystical story, journey with Dark Retreat, because he showed me the reason you come to meet me, you want to show, right? Exactly. So it's a Tibetan Pecha, the text.
With all the visions.
With the drawing of all visions of the Dark Retreat. So actually all this drawing of the Dark Vision retreats, those are we call it the Nyamnyon Takja Rinpa. Those are the signs of the Dark Retreat, So the Dark Retreat is, it's a very, how do you say? In a way, it's very systematic, kind of system, and there's, how do you say? The structures and systems, and then according to your visions, also, you are in what level and this and that. So that's why, in this one of the part, I wrote this, the signs, and these signs, it starts with this, how do you say? Anyway, the signs. So the many books we have these signs, and then you come to Portland, right?
You had just published Mirror of Light. I asked, would you teach us? And you said, oh well, you should come to Portland. I'll be giving. This is when you were giving teachings.
We met in New York.
We met at James's place.
That's New York.
In New York, in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Brooklyn, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I came to Portland and Yuthok trekchö.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually interesting. Yeah, it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
You are born where?
Are you a New Yorker? New Mexico.
Are you a Mexican?
New Mexico. New Mexico.
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Yeah, New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
He was born in New Mexico, then he traveled to the Sikkim, and then he received this one of original Pecha, the text.
Yeah.
And then I was born in Amdo, then I went to Lhasa, received the teachings, and then this tögal's instructions, and then the Dark Retreat, I went back to Amdo and this and that. And then, when we met, actually, he said his teacher was the Ani Lochen's disciple. I said, oh, my teacher is only different is your teacher was a man, monk?
Yes,
Monk or yogi?
More yogi.
More yogi, okay.
Just like monk, but act like yogi.
Okay. And my teacher was a nun, So then our teachers are the same.
Yeah.
And then I finished the Mirror of Light. I said, it's good we talk about this. So actually, that was a very strong karmic connection.
It's a good one, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the story.
Yes.
And so, that's actually, we're talking about the signs. Actually, our connection is connected by the books, about the drawing of the signs, right? Yeah. This, and then also, do you remember we found one in Mongolia, Christiana? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I need to travel more. Pictures? When you travel more, you have more miraculous stories. We're in Mongolia, and this Mongolian, the museum, how do you call this? Dandaf. Dandarabja, Dandaf, this Gobi Desert, this famous Mahasiddha, crazy Lama. And in Mongolians, they say he was a Nyingma, he was a Dzogchen practitioner. But then when we went there, they are more practicing chöt, So we are wondering what kind of Nyingma practice he was doing. And then this, the museum, manager, he was, we went to see his museum and we saw his yurt, right?
We saw the shrine room.
His shrine room with a yurt. So we copy his yurt here now. And then this manager of the museum, he's opening some files in his computer. And I just like this, I was curious what he's checking. And like this, he was checking this dark retreat signs, in his this old book. Then I told him, I know these images. I think he was very surprised. This is our secret text. How do you know this text? And of course, I, kind of, how do you call it?
Spied.
Yeah, spied on his computer, exactly. Didn't want to show. I did a quick spy like this. I said, I know this text. And he was kind of surprised. He said, how do you know? That moment, you have that book, right, Christiana?
What year was that? 2000.
15, 16, maybe. So then she actually, we had a book, we published one book in Tibet. And one very famous Amdo Ngakpa master who talks about this Yangti, the visions. And in his book, he wrote all the instructions. And also, I like this, he always says, because he had many lay people, his students are not, how do you say, well-studied people, his students are farmers and nomad, elderly people. I think this, I like that old Ngakpa tradition, right? In the monasteries, they are well-educated, they are very systematic and everything in order. And then Ngakpa community is kind of mess, everybody's there. It's very biodiversity, young ones and smart ones, old ones, and non-smart, all are mixed. So I think ancient time, when they are teaching Dzogchen, probably many people, they don't know how to read.
Yeah, sure.
Right? They don't know how to read. That's very interesting, So, and then they just, this Mahasiddha style, I think it works well, give direct introductions. Maybe, education in one way is good. We learn, we study, like you see, I'm educated, I can write the stuff, yes. Right? So, and then maybe the other hand, the education is a contamination too, our mind contamination. Do you agree with that, Steve?
I think it's certainly possible, yes.
Do you agree? Maybe, right? Depends on education. What we call brainwash and education sometimes is the same, exactly. Or even not a brainwash, it's a contamination, right? So once our mind is over-contaminated by modern education, I think sometimes it's hard to understand the Dharma, especially. That's why it's actually difficult to work on them. We're over-contaminated. So anyway, So this is the reason why I'm saying the signs or drawing, because ancient time, the practitioners, they are kind of illiterate, they don't know how to read and write. And then they see just the drawings. Oh, I was in the dark, I saw this one, that one, So it's a very illustrative, right?
Yeah,
very, very well illustrated book, And so I wrote one is that part. And then it's like, in the dark retreat, there are three kind of levels, what level you go and which level you reach and these things. So I wrote that part. And then the last part, actually, my favorite part is the last part. Last part is kersel, means how to remove the obstacles. Okay. So I think this, and today, this part is really missing, And all spiritual practice can have side effect, right? I think, Steve, you interviewed Dr. Caroline about that.
I did indeed, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's becoming a very common problem today, right? There are more and more practitioners, and more practitioners, they want to practice more like a higher practices and more experiential practices, and maybe dark retreat, if this, when I say it's very experiential, this is what I need. This is what I want, right? So I think which we can understand, right? Like, we do something and we want to see the results, this is good too. But then once we are not ready, I think sometimes can be dangerous. So that's why we talk about this kersel, The historical master, Kungtrul Yönden Jamtso, he wrote a commentary of this dark, the single golden syllable. In his text, it says, actually, he says, if the teacher have to be experienced how to work with the side effect, okay? So he says, actually, the dark retreat can trigger a lot of lung disturbances, the channel disturbance or this and that. Actually, it's true, it can cause visions and, scary feelings. Some people, they get panic attack and this and that. So mostly we call it lung disorders. And today we can say, mental issues, psychological issues, or, panic attack and hallucination, right? And dark retreat can become a base of psychosis too. If you are not kind of really ready and present, right? So that's why Kungtrul Rinpoche says, if somebody is good with how to treat the lung, or you have experiences, and then it's good to instruct the dark retreat. So if you are not experienced it, he says the lung can go really badly. So I think that's true, it's possible some people, they get become psychosis, because the visions are too strong, too many visions. And at the end, you don't realize those are your visions, right? You think they are attacking you or they're chasing after you, like a bad dream, like a nightmare. So that's why my favorite part is the kersel, this how to eliminate obstacles. And then end of this, my book, actually, I put this from Yuthok's kersel. Yuthok and Jungwa literature kersel. So Yuthok, in the Yuthok tradition, there is a whole chapter. It has 15 sections. It's talking all kind of mental, physical, and energetical disturbances, according to Tibetan medicine. What kind of problems you can have during the meditation and visions, not only dark retreat, also other kind of meditations. And so how to treat them, with diet, lifestyle, external therapy, and medicine, and so on. Yeah, so that's about my book. And sorry, your question is about my personal experience, and I try to put together. Yeah. The reason I wrote this book in Tibetan, actually, I give you a short one in English too, right? You did translation.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. So he has one of the first, the version of the dark retreat. That's more instructions. And then I thought, now we are kind of bring out the dark retreat. And so I authorized Justin to teach and guide the dark retreat to people. And so I thought it's good if we have a kind of solid text,
Absolutely.
So it then even spiritual practice, safety is important.
Yes.
Health is always number one, right? So therefore, I put all the things, and at the end I put that subject. And then now you're studying Soarikpa too, which is great.
Exactly.
He's studying medicine. And I wish, the most of the Buddhist centers, and maybe they have, I don't know, they have doctors, Ayurvedic doctors or TCM doctors or Soarikpa doctors, or maybe, I don't know, psychologists. I think it's good if our spiritual tradition is more connected with the medical science, then we are more the safe side, right?
Yes.
So that is actually one of the original Yuthok's, one of his main teaching. Of course, officially, he says more than like 70 or 80% of his profession, Yuthok's profession, he was a doctor. He said, as a doctor, I can help people directly, right? But then because of his students, Sumtun Yeshezong, they really want to have a Dharma practice too. So therefore, he gave them Yuthok as a Dharma practice. But then again, he says, with Dharma practice, you can't escape from health, You need this kersel. Kersel means eliminating obstacles. So one entire chapter about that it's really nice, really good. And then in 15th century, there was this great masters was called Surkar Nyamnyel Dorje, and he was considered one of Yuthok's reincarnation. And he says when he was 10 years old, he had a vision of Yuthok. And then Yuthok said, now it's your time. He said, I want you to check the four medical tantra. He said there are some people, they add extra commentaries, they messed up. In the vision, Yuthok said that my medical text is messed up by some old doctors. He said, please re-clean it, to clean it. And then also he said, to give teachings on Yuthok. So that's why the Surkar Nyamnyel Dorje, he wrote a commentary of this Kersel. Yuthok is the Kersel part. So all medical chapter is becoming a big book, like 700 pages or something. So I hope in Buddhism in general, especially in the Tibetan Buddhist centers, maybe studying everything is difficult, but studying a little bit of partially, I think it's very beneficial, right?
Yeah.
So when Justin he talked with you, he said, "Oh, we are going to have a dark retreat
retreat center,
dark retreat interview." You said,
yes.
You said it will be what?
Which one? Our conversation?
Yeah, you texted me.
I said it would be beneficial for people.
No, you said it will be fun.
It will be fun, but that's two. Bringing the two together.
He said it will be fun.
Yeah.
I didn't like that word, fun.
Oh, come on.
I said it will be beneficial. I tried to correct him, and he didn't realize that. He wrote, "Oh, tomorrow is our interview. It will be fun." I said,
God.
"Oh, sometimes it's better." I said direct. So beneficial is, it's kind of, we try to open these great teachings and this, and I'm very happy we are opening this tradition. It's not only the promoting the dark retreat part, and also with the medical, views about how to make the practices safe, right? I think this is actually one of the main reasons why they say Vajrayana is secret, right? It's secret. It's not there's something wrong. It's a secret. It means it need to be understood and practiced in a proper way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Yes,
just I mean the next step with this project is continuing to set up a dark retreat center where we can have people doing this in the safe way, right? In a supportive way. When I was talking,
place is place. It really matters, right?
Yeah.
And the Bhutan's travel council, they say happiness is a place.
Yes. So really.
Happiness. I said, oh, it's a kind of nice expression.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the place, I think it's very important. Now there are more and more people, they ask me dark retreat and this and that. I always telling them, we need to have a professional place, right? Professional place means a safe place, right? With right conditions, with also, guided by somebody in case somebody goes out of the, the head, this and that, I saw some people, they went completely crazy because of 49 days of dark retreat. Okay, and this person was not my student, he's a student of very old Tibetan Lama. I know that old Tibetan Lama, he gave dark retreat teachings very openly. And for me, that person, in my medical understanding, I thought he was not ready for dark retreat, because he was already suffering from some mental issues. He was already having some psychosis and some mental breakdown and this and that. And then actually this is the problem, when we don't have a place that, you are kind of guarded and you are checked up, if you have something, then maybe we can tell them, okay, stop the retreat or this. I think we really need to take care of them carefully. So this man, I was thinking why this Tibetan, very, very well-known, very experienced, great master, I thought, like, why he just give the dark retreat for this guy? And then he told him, okay, go to 49 days of retreat. Okay. That's what this patient told me. I believe what he said. I believe in this story, And then I was thinking, like, what was that kind of the main reason, why happened so? And, some people, they don't know this kind of practice is healthy for them or not, right? But then they have this kind of wish to do something very advanced, like dark retreat, or, I have heard it's very powerful. I want to do something powerful, I need it. Oh, visionary, because I already have disturbing, I don't know, hallucination or something. I want to get rid of these things, maybe with dark retreat. And then that's my guess. And then this guy, he made a determination and went to meet this master. And in a way, he was able to convince that master to give him the teachings. Of course, once you receive teachings, master said, okay, now if you can find a place, you do it, right? And he was completely out, when he came to me. He finished 49 days. I thought, wow.
Yeah.
It's, the hallucination was too strong for him. He couldn't control anymore. It's out of control. It can be very dangerous.
Yeah. Again, one of the things he said to me before, I think it was the 49-day retreat, that was really interesting and still is at the kind of fore of my mind with all of this. You asked, how much time do you have for integration afterwards?
Yes.
And I at the time, because of the way the world and life is, I didn't have. I mean, I had some time, but you told me, in Tibet, maybe we would do 3 months, and this really opened up my eyes to this particular thing, the importance of integration and care, even after a retreat.
Yes.
So that you can blend things, take care of yourself, you know, and also bring the experience into everyday life. And I think this is another reason why a focused, you know, professional, stable place to do these retreats is important.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So that people can also have the support around integration.
Before, during, after.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's in a rush.
And now, yeah, people, you know, they hear something. Sometimes they ask me to give some talks, I give talks, and then they Google and they find some place and they disappear somewhere. So then I was thinking, that's not so good, you know, so that's why, yeah, hopefully we can find a professional, this Yantic yoga retreat, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's it.
You have found the place.
Yeah, there's the place I'm looking at. I think right now we're just looking for the, you know, we need, you know, financial support and the property. So we're working.
So we have Steve.
So Steve, if you want to give us property. But no, seriously, you know, it actually, we were talking about this not too long ago, and, you know, I think we both feel very confident in the project and the importance of it, and it will come. You know, it's just a matter of just listening.
Yeah, actually, in what Tantra says, 5 perfections, no? In order to give the perfect teachings, we need a perfect place, location. So that's why I think this kind of professional place is really important.
Yeah.
I think there are some dark retreat places, and then maybe, I don't know, a few people, they told me they went to Taoist dark retreat places, you know. Then maybe, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, well, it brought you and I together, right? You from Tibet, me from New Mexico, and it will bring it, you know, it will keep going, process. Eventually it will happen. Yeah.
So one of the main instruction for him is, any moment you think is too much, I said, come out. You don't say it's your commitment, you have to finish 49 days or this and that. I told him, don't force yourself. When you feel pressure or you think something is not well, I said, just come out.
Yeah.
So traditionally we say, don't break the retreat. You know, don't break retreat means don't come out. But in the dark retreat, if you feel it's too much or something like this, you should come out. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. So then, yeah. Did you feel like you want to come out?
No, it was good. In fact, I didn't want to leave.
Because I told you to come out, and that's why you didn't come out. If I told them you are not allowed to come out, maybe thinking, how should I get out?
No, it was good. But I you know, you see a lot, and that can be overwhelming.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very deep inner journey. And I think today we have so much, it seems in our modern society, there are so much, you know, people are looking for experiences, no? Experiences, pleasure, new type of pleasure, experiences, new type of experiences. And then, yeah, I think the reason why the new drugs are coming, because people want to have new experiences, right? And then the drugs are stronger and they want to have stronger experiences, you know? So our humans are searching experiences. And I think also maybe some people, they don't have experiences. Once you don't have experiences, then maybe you get bored and then maybe they don't continue, right? So in a way, it's nothing wrong, you know, you want to have experiences and you really want to see and feel and, you know, you have new, you know, experiences. But then when we search this in a superficially, then we all run after substances, right? You know, there are so much of substance addictions, right? And then the substances, they call it natural, it's the semi-synthetic, and it's the mushroom, it's the animals, it's the spider, it's the frog, and it's the, it's a shamanic, and this and that. There's so many things. So introducing the substances in our organism. Yeah, in some tantric texts, they talk about these things, substances. But they are only if you are kind of wanting to have some kind of experiences, right? Once you have one experiences, that's it. Then you should not repeat that again. If you repeat it again and again, then you get addicted to that kind of substances, right? And but it's not saying you don't do substances at all. If you are searching kind of one experiences, then you do a substances. You have visions or trips or whatever, and these things. But you should not do one more than once, right? But if I think people they really want to do, then they really should do like how do you say? Firstly, make sure you have a stable base, you are very well grounded. And then I think this kind of natural experiences, the experience and visions from dark retreat, they are very healthy, right?
Yes.
Yes, you can have experiences, you can have visions, but I think we should talk about healthy visions and healthy experiences.
Yeah.
Right?
And feel comfortable with the mind that has these experiences, which is why trekchö is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, today there are different people, they are using the word of Dzogpa Chenpo or trekchö, Mahāmudrā, or whatever they call, non-dual meditation, and they do substances, right? Oh, when I take substances, then I'm that state, and then substances. My teacher told me I'm free from limit, So, substances can affect me. Of course, substances can affect you. That's why you're addicted to it, right? But I think these things we really should be careful.
Yeah.
So actually, these 10 different characteristics of dark retreat, it says dark retreat is very experiential, very visual, very direct. It's not talking blah blahs. Actually, those things what you really see, right? When we go for a dream, we see a dream. And the dream is a vision, right? So the dream is a hallucination too. But even it's a hallucination, once you become lucid, it's your mental projection. So then you have that awareness. So dark retreat, many people, they are saying, oh, dark retreat. But actually dream is very similar, there's not much different, right? But dark retreat, when you are meditating, then you are lucid. Right? In the dream, we are not lucid. We have to become lucid, right? So last night, actually, I had a very nice dream. I was wondering why today is special. I saw a deep blue sky, and then the sunlight was very bright. And then I thought it was sun. I looked carefully. It was a moon, like white circle, the white moon. Right, in the sun we cannot look. So in the moon there was a perfect Yuthok, inside. Yuthok like this. He was smiling. Then I took a picture. I said, "Oh, this picture! Oh, I can show Christiana this one. Yuthok is in the moon." So it was the sun, but also it was the moon, right? So sun, moon. And then the light and the bright and the vision and the things. So it exactly same like dark retreat visions. So only the question is you are becoming lucid or not. Once you become lucid, of course, sleeping in the night in the dark room, right? Eyes are closed and in the dream is seeing that. So yeah. Then I woke up, I said, oh, something special is coming today. Why today is special? So now I know why we are doing interview.
I think so.
It's very beneficial.
I think so. And it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. The hallucination, the medical hallucination, I think that's a kind of very unhealthy, right? Unhealthy because it's harmful. And people are having hallucinations, they don't know how to control, they harm themselves or they harm somebody else, right? It's harmful. And the visions, or when we are in the dark and our mind is producing the visions and this and that is coming from our head, right? So that is exactly called the tögal. But when you are meditating, you have 100% of awareness. You are lucid there, so you are seeing your own energy. Or actually, in the Yuthok's expression, it's called the yeshe monsam de tongpa. Yeshe, the jhana. You are seeing your jhana directly, and you experience directly. You are not just imagining or visualizing. It's direct there. It's in front of you. Right? If you open your eye, it's in front of you. If you close your eyes, it's in front of you. It's in or it's out. It doesn't matter. Right? So free from the walls, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think that experience also, in my experience in dark retreat, felt sometimes after the retreat, it feels like a lot of stuff has burned off, like a lot of places of holding on tightly. Some of the, like when we were at the beginning of the conversation talking about the hardness, right? Hardness around identity, hardness around concept and all this. And it feels sometimes like that is just burning off very naturally by experiencing the spaciousness, almost as if you are in the middle of endless space. And of course, Rigpa is endless space. And so settling into this, this is something I would love one day for us to be able to study, is the impact it has on almost a somatic impact, but also maybe even one day looking into this around all of the trauma and the stories and all of the hardness that we carry around with us. I remember after the first 7-day retreat, at the time I was working on Rikers Island, for New York City Department of Correction, and I felt that several years of just the intensity of that work was almost burned away like a mist. Coming out, I felt lighter and more spacious and more free, and I think that this offers, it's an interesting counterpoint to what the contemporary human experience tends to be like now in the modern era, and especially the modern samsaric era. So it's a very exciting time, and this is a very exciting book, and it's a beneficial book. It's a beneficial practice, and
it's a fun book.
He said it was fun. I think it's beneficial. Yeah, phenomenal practice.
And how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to help bring this to pass? The center and the whole project you're describing. How should people best get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch is to email us or check out our website.
Yangti Yoga what?
yangtiyoga.com. Yeah. So yangtiyoga.com. We already have a lot of online programs, and we're building, creating community, sangha, this kind of thing. And a lot of people are interested, and it's just really about waiting for the right causes and conditions to come together. And we welcome people to, reach out and learn more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my hope is, or my wish is a place really kind of specialized, right? Like specialized retreat place. Maybe we don't need many rooms, but if there are even a few rooms, then people can come frequently. It's kind of really, really specialized place, that all facilities are there, and also, personal guide, and then dark retreat, also you cannot cook by yourself, somebody's bringing the food and all the things. So that's the reason I gave him the name Yangtik Yoga. Right? So it's really kind of focused and specialized on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we welcome anybody who's curious to come, check us out.
Well,
So
thank you.
I have some text here from this Kongtrul Yundin Jamtso's Yangtik, the Dark Retreats, the commentary, G.D. Lumpton, the guidelines of the Dark Retreat. And I like this part. And he says, this is the heart, extract of the Samandabhadra's heart. And this is Vajradhara's heart mirror. And this is Vajrasattva's secret treasure. And this is the heart treasure of Garudorje. And the Panmanjoni's, Padmasambhava's heart essence. And this is the heart blood of enlightened Dakinis, Jhana Dakinis. And this cannot be translated by the expert of translators. And if Indians practice this, Indians get enlightened. If Chinese practice this, Chinese get enlightened. If Tibetans practice this, Tibetans get enlightened. And whoever practices, this will give you the liberation. This is the jewel of the liberation. So I like this expression. Now we have to add this. If Westerners practice this, they get enlightened. If Africans practice this, they get enlightened. So when I was reading this, it's a very funny expression. Chunda Jagarui Tomna Jagarwatsang. So Indians practice, Indians get enlightened. So hopefully everybody get enlightened with this practice.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you both. This has been such a fascinating discussion between the two of you. Thank you for being so generous with your time and sharing these tremendous points. Dr. Nida Chenagtsang and Lama Justin Von Bujdoss, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you said you have many questions.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. But I think that was such a beautiful ending. But I can keep going if you want. But I have still many questions. For example, one of my questions was, much is said about one has to be ready for this sort of a dark retreat practice. And this fellow who you met went into a dark retreat and he came out the worse for it. And you yourself, as you mentioned, Dr. Nida, your first retreat, you thought you were ready, you were confident, potent young meditator, and you met the serpent vision and you left your retreat and so on. So you've talked about that, how it's important to be ready. And I wondered how it was you determined that Justin was ready.
Well, I told him, to do the 7 days first, and then I interviewed him. I think also 7 days. I said, if you felt too much, you should come out, right? Yeah. But Justin, I know, he was trained in Mahāmudrā, and then he joined also Mirror of Light. And of course, as a teacher and student relationship, you should have some confidence in the student too, right? So you are feeling and this and that. But I thought maybe the first time 49 days was a little bit too much. So that's why I said, let's do the gradual way.
Yeah. So it's 7 days. And then after maybe 2 weeks, I went into the 49 days after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I think in the West, maybe we should not do too much this Mahasiddha style.
Yeah.
Mahasiddha style, you have to confront all your, how do you say, difficulties and this and that, right? So I think this Mahasiddha style of the retreat to forcing people to stay inside, and to finish and to giving a very strong condition, this and that, I think maybe in our modern time, maybe people are not ready,
Yeah.
because already the nature of our life is stress and pressure,
Yeah.
and stress of life and work and, relationship. We are already stressed, right? And then work pressure, and there's so many financial pressure, so many pressures and stress there. If we are adding the spiritual pressure as an extra, this maybe not that healthy. Recently I'm thinking more and more this too.
Yeah, no, I agree. It feels like anywhere between 1 day and 3 days is a good place to start for people, and then slowly build from there. Dr. Nida's point about and the point that you bring up, Steve, about this person who was very, very destabilized from the practice is it's a good reason to keep in mind the fact that yes, we all want this kind of awakening experience, but at what cost, right? And so to build the stable base as we go means going in a much more titrated way, I think is most skillful. And of course, if somebody's very, very prepared and they do a 1 day one and it's very easy, that's good. And a 3 day one and it's very, very easy, that's good. But better to start, slow, just so that people have the support that they need.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting when you talk, the people, if they want to do the dark retreat or this, when I ask them, oh, maybe you should do Ngondro. I call it a Ngondro reaction. Ngondro, no, it's too much, too hard, I'm advanced than this and that. Then I see there's something wrong. I call it a Ngondro reaction, Some people, they have this kind of rejection. Oh, Ngondro is very tough. You sit, you chant, you do prostration. Like some people, they say, oh, it's too basic, preliminary practice, or
I've already done that.
Yeah, I already done that. I'm like advanced. I'm not a Ngondro practitioner. Then normally I'd be careful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this some simple questions, actually, it really tells the quality of that practitioner, In Tibet, we know the Patrul Rinpoche was a highly qualified Dzogpa Chenpo or Mahāmudrā practitioner, and he did this classical Ngondro for more than 25 times. It means every year 6 months of Ngondro retreat, and he repeat that 25 years. It's a lot, So, and the founder of the Jikung Kajul, the Chopa Sumgun, he says, trekchö Ngondro sap. He says, actually, if you really understand, the Ngondro is more profound than the actual other practices. I can understand these very simple teachings. I can understand when the people's, the readiness or their foundation, right? Readiness and foundation. I know some people, they are mentally very strong. They don't have much emotional issues. Maybe they can handle dark retreat, They are not scared or they don't have problems, that's this. But then also when you come out from dark retreat, so you don't see your ego is developing, right? Your personality, oh, I have done the dark retreat and 49s and I'm this and I. Some people simply get lost in I. So that is a bad side effect too. So yeah, normally that's why when people ask me, sometimes even I just tell people in a joke way, I said, oh, maybe you should repeat Ngondro again. So from their answer, I understand what is their level. And when they say, me again, Ngondro? Then I think, yes, exactly. You need Ngondro. You need to be tamed by Ngondro, preliminary practices. And some of them, they say, oh, I love Ngondro, I want to repeat it again, and this and that. I know they're kind of humble, ready, good base, and so on, right? And then, so Ngondro is like my kind of first question. And then the second question is kind of other practices, like Guru Yoga or Deity Yoga. Then some people are having trust issues, then they don't like the idea of Guru Yoga. Oh, Guru Yoga, maybe Guru stories and this and that. And then again, it's a how do you say, trusting issue and mental issue too. And then the Deity Yoga, oh, it's too complicated. I don't like complications, I just want to have the fast and the simple one, the fast, simple, and cheap. So then that for me, then I see a quality from that person too, right? So I think, mostly to check somebody's readiness or foundation. Normally for my way of doing is I go very, very simple questions, Ngondro, Guru Yoga, Deity Yoga, then their answers more or less like my way of understanding, I can understand. I often say about Ngondro, the preliminary practice, it's almost like in our life is like our childhood education, right? So in the Western psychology is saying that the childhood education and makes who you are later when you become adult, right? That defines you, that shapes who you are. I think in spiritual practice, something like that, especially in Vajrayana. And if the Ngondro practice, the quality of Ngondro practice really shapes, what kind of practitioner you are in later, right? So that's why when people are having Ngondro reactions, maybe those people are similar, childhood traumatized people, right? And then maybe they need to work a little bit on their trauma and this and that, and then you do other stuff. So I try to compare these two things. It seems, this is more or less it works, Okay. But then I have another problem. My problem is trusting in other people too much. I like to help people. I like to, encourage people, encourage people and support them because, I see potential and goodness and kindness and positive energy, power in everybody, So maybe a little bit too much. So therefore, I tell people, okay, do retreat, or do this and that. And then some close people, they are telling me, oh, you have to slow down. Maybe you don't tell everybody to do this and that. Sometimes I think they have, the people, they have reasons too, right? Maybe I have this kind of positive way of seeing about practitioners and this. And because I know that some other teachers, maybe they have opposite, right? Yes. They're saying, okay, you can never receive the teachings, dark retreat, maybe only next life, And Tummo is too high for you. You cannot practice Tummo, Maybe you wait for next life or another life, or you purify your karma whole life. I think this is a little bit maybe extreme way, discouraging people, right? So I think we need to find a balance. Yeah, we need to find a balance. So I'm trying to working in myself too.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, you said that Ngondro can shape the sort of practitioner you become. I'm curious what that shape is.
Because actually, Ngondro, when we talk about refuge, you find you find the your direction, right? So, for example, there's a research. It says, today many people, they say, I'm spiritual, but not religious, right? There are lots of movements like that. And so the expression, yes, I'm spiritual, not religious. And then, of course, the religions, they have a problem, and that's why people are scared to say they are religious or this. But that research says most of people, they say, I'm spiritual, but not religious. Most of them, they have some mental issues. Have you heard about that?
Yes, actually, I have.
Exactly. So I think that is the thing. We have a fear to be called by, oh, you are religious, or you are Buddhist, or you are this and that. I know these things too. People say, oh, I'm not Buddhist, but I want to do dark retreat. I say, okay, you can maybe work a little bit, what Buddhist is, right? If you say, okay, I want to be very selective, this and that, I think maybe there's something wrong. It's not becoming a Buddhist, you become religious, but becoming a Buddhist, you see clearly what your path is, right? You become fearless. If you are labeled somebody calling you a Buddhist, you are religious, maybe you are able to accept, okay, if you think about this for me, I don't need to argue. I don't need to prove that I'm, good or this and that. Do you get that point? So that's why I think the taking refuge thing is like it's a defining your direction, and also it's becoming clear something for you, coming out from your confusions, right? What does it mean you are spiritual but not religious? Right? It's a nice word. Actually, do you realize when you say this, there are so many things going on in your head, and mostly is the fear, right? You don't want to be labeled, right? So if you have this kind of fear, it's good you work on it, and you work on it, and also the way how you understand about Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. You see as a doctor, medicine, nurse, or you see as your own aspect there, the outer refugee, inner refugee, secret refugee. There are different layers. I think this can help you to relax, that taking refuge, it helps you to relax about this, religious fear or the spiritual craziness. It's kind of finding a balance, right? But then if you take a refuge, it's something for yourself. You don't need to say, oh, I'm officially a Buddhist, this and that, right? You don't need to fear other people, how they label you. And also you should not label yourself to saying, now I belongs to this and that. If you really understand the refuge is you see your path clearly and also with a secure, right? You are not starting something with insecurity and you are not feeling unsafe, right? You just make sure, work on these things. So the refuge, right? And then also the four immeasurables. When you talk about four immeasurables, bodhicittas, of course, it's a Buddhist way of expressed, but that makes us more human, right? That makes us more human, more connections. So what humans we're looking for, and what we're looking for, joy and happiness. What really makes us happy? What is the goal of this happiness? How to find it? Happiness, mostly we can find through the connections, right? And then what is the connection? Is the connection the fear make us connect with others better? Anger make us connect with others better? Jealousy does it? Confusion? Which one makes the best connection, right, with ourselves and with others? Kindness and love and, to equanimity. And this four immeasurable is really kind of, they have a power for opening your heart and being connected, right? And then, so I think four immeasurable really reminds us who we are, like the basic human nature, right? And now the the scientifically saying the basic human nature is the kindness, love each other. We see this from the kids, right? When kids, before they get brainwashed, they don't care about their colors, they don't care about their social status and family, rich or wealth or poor and this and that. They just want to get together and they play and they share each other and this and that. Of course, there may be some disturbances too, but mostly when kids get together, they just want to play together. And they try to be kind to each other. I think this kind of human nature we kind of lost because of, individualistic ideas, right? For immeasurables, I think it's bringing back about the meaning of connection, meaning of, like this collective energy and so on, right? And then when we say Vajrasattva, okay, I need to work with myself. And like you are talking about trauma and healing this. So then Vajrasattva is not saying now like you are the Vajrasattva, you are using the Vajrasattva and you try to remember, what kind of negative karma or negative accumulation you have, what traumas you have, what dramas you hold. You clean, you wash yourself. You work on yourself, right? Vajrasattva is very much working on ourselves, Then prostration is a physical, Vajrasattva is like a working emotional or energetical cleaning. Prostration and circumambulation is a physical purging, physical, exercise. I think we are doing all for ourselves, It's starting with the I, right? Starting with the I. And then this I has a good direction. This I make a good connection. This I is kind of purified. This I is working with oneself. And mandala offering, this I is generous too, right? So then the kusali, this I is letting yourself go, At end, our most powerful attachment is our own body. And we're able to let our body go as an offering or as a nectar, whatever, right? So I think if you really think about the base of the Ngondro, it's lots of the working on ourself. What do you call it? Self-work?
Self-work, self-improvement.
Yeah, self-work and self-improvement. So if you really understand those meanings, if you do it and then spiritually you are kind of changed and transformed, and then it's building a very healthy base for other type of spiritual practices, right? Otherwise, without a stable Ngondro base, you think, okay, now I'm doing the deity yoga. I'm the deity, I'm special, Others are not the deities. But if your heart is trained with bodhicitta, what you see in yourself is you see in others too. So if you are the deities, others are deities too. You respect yourself and you respect other deities too, right? So I think many things, once you have that base and then goes, and then the meditation or whatever you do is kind of, you are in a healthy base, right? And also, before you do the Ngondro retreat, you have this, the four thoughts that changing your mind, right? You think about impermanent, you think about preciousness of human life and impermanent and difficulties of life and the causality, cause and effect. So these things, it's a Buddhist way is explained, but we don't need to say it's a Buddhist way. It's the human logic, right? To how to see around ourselves and our lives in a little bit different way, more insightfully. So I think that's why Ngondro, the common Ngondro, uncommon Ngondro, they have a very, there's a really big value. Yeah, it's building a big foundation.
Perhaps my last question to you then. As you're talking there, I'm thinking you're drawing out these themes and these attitudes of practitioners. And I think of two, perhaps, extremes. On the one hand, somebody who's very desperate to get enlightened or to progress. So much so, in fact, that they're always thinking of the next thing. I'll do my Ngondro so I can get the initiation, and I'll do my kirim so I can do my dzogchen. I'm always looking for the next thing with that hunger for enlightenment. On the other hand, there's a person perhaps who thinks, no, I'm going to simply do whatever practice I'm doing. I'll just do that practice. But in a way, that can also be a little bit stagnant. There can be a sense of going through the motions. There isn't energy there. There's a sense of stagnation. Ngundro, I think, is a famous place of stagnation, actually. People say, I'm still doing my Ngundro, a few prostrations and, in a way, kind of giving up, even if the practice forms are continuing. I wonder if you recognize those two, I suppose, extremes. Perhaps they're just in my own imagination, but and what advice do you have?
It's not your imagination, it's true. I call it the Ngondro trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so many people are kind of traumatized. Oh, I'm not finishing 100,000 of prostration. I'm not finishing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm struggling. My life is so busy, this and that. I really see that like a spiritual trauma. Okay, so that's why what I like Ngondro, especially Yuthok Ngondro, is 7 days of practice. Okay, 7 days. You know, when I say 7 days of Ngondro, and then people say, oh, you know, Nida is creating a new easy style and this and that, you know. When I wrote Karma Mudra Joy, this, oh, you know, sex sells, and, you know, he wrote a book about sex and this and that. So I thought it's good, you know, what people say, criticisms, this and that. But then also, my answer is not to saying, oh, you know, to prove myself, blah, blah, this way. So this is the reason, for example, the things why I write in the Tibetan, you know, these commentaries in Tibetan. So yeah, if you want to criticize me, what I said is what I said or something traditional, you read my book, you know. So I don't get lost in translations. I write in Tibetan directly, and you read the Tibetan, and you ask me this, we can debate or we can discuss, you know. So that's why for me, keeping the authentic practice is very important, you know. And then I thought for me, personally, to something bring out authentically, only way is to put it in Tibetan. So that's why I'm serious about Yuthok's Mahāmudrā, Karma Mudra, Ati Yoga, Dark Retreat. So I finished this in Tibetan, so I'm really happy about this, right? But then I think what Yuthok said in the 12th century, he said the future people get busier and lazier, and they are less courageous about spiritual practice, which is true, you know. There's one word, it's a kind of funny. He says, future people, they see a spiritual, very thick book. You know what they do? They escape. This is too much for me to escape. It's so true. So that's why also the classical Ngondro is for 6 months. For us, lay people, you know, to find that 6 months to do a solitary retreat or little bit of every day, lots of commitment. That's why I'm saying spiritual stress, you know, spiritual pressure. It's a little bit too much. But 7 days, normally when I say Ngondro, I'm talking about 7 days of Ngondro, you know. If you think, okay, 7 days, I don't find the time, or Ngondro is not for me, then, you know, if somebody says, oh, I can't do 6 months of Ngondro, I can understand. Yes, you cannot do 6 months of Ngondro. This is realistic, right? You cannot take 6 months of off, you know, or doing a little bit every day, and the people are feeling lots of pressures and so on. But what I think is 7 days, what I suggest is 7 days you do, if you are completely new, 7 days you do this Ngondro in a group, then you know how to do this practice. And then another 7 days you do by yourself. So, and the group experience and your own experience is a little bit different, right? Group, you know, you are supported by the teacher, you know, collective energy, collective experiences. But when you do the individual by yourself, it's your personal experiences and so on. So that's why normally I suggest them to do 2 Ngondros, one in the group to make sure how you do it, and one do it by yourself.
Yeah, one thing I've also noticed just in a little bit, the beginning of my studying So Rigpa is this thing about how a good doctor listens to people, right? And listens to people, asks them lots of questions about their life and how are you doing? What's your practice like? What's your family like life? How's your body feeling? What's your diet like? And I think that practitioners would benefit from asking themselves internal questions. Why am I in such a rush? If I'm headed towards the Dzogchen and I'm doing Nunjo now and I can't wait to do the next thing and then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing so that I can grab, the completion, you need to ask yourself, why, and it's through contemplation, through introspection. There's this expression, practice slowly, arrive quickly, right? And these kinds of elements of giving ourselves some time to slow down feels very counterintuitive, especially in places like the United States where we are so fast and we think, oh, I'll just grab it. But the more we are able to ask ourselves these questions, and similarly for the person who is finding themselves in a stagnant place, being overly humble, maybe almost to a fault, asking questions around, what is my experience like? Why am I experiencing blockages? What do I really need? And really, really listen. I think most people will kind of naturally course correct, if they can have this much more subtle, blended relationship to practice and not treat it like a product. So I think, just like what Genla said about, this is kind of this union of a Tibetan medical approach and spiritual practice, creating a really integrated way of practicing, which I think is really profound, but it requires that people actually sit down and listen to themselves and ask themselves questions. And be uncomfortable sometimes. Oh, maybe I should do Nunjo again because I'm so full of all this pride, like, excessive pride about, oh, I'm doing this, or maybe I've done Nunjo 10 times. maybe I'm good enough to go to the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's not only the student's issue. Teacher says, okay, you do Ngonjo, then I will give you teaching. They do it, wishing to get next teaching. And then maybe teacher, you are not ready, do it again. So that's what I was saying. Maybe some teachers, they are always doubting in the capacity of students.
Yeah.
Maybe they are kind, but they want to give. They always see like they're not ready. And then instead of like asking or analyzing, why they are not ready, maybe they need more psychological works too, like you are saying, analyzing these things. But then just seeing in traditional way, the poor disciples, they did 3 times of the, like 100,000 of the practices in Ngonjo, and now they are kind of really ready, the wantingness, this and that. And maybe teacher says, oh no, still there too much this grasping, this and that. Okay, you're not ready again. And then I think, that's why we need to find the balance or the communication between the teacher and students. I think it have to be clear too. We need to find the balance between two, right? When you are asking this question, I know many people, they are saying, oh, I did this Jerem and my teacher said, I will receive Tummo, but I never received Tummo. And then they get really disappointed, right? And then even they get depressed, because then you see actually the basis, why you did so strongly the Ngonjo. Your goal is you want to receive Tummo. But then teacher says you are still not ready, and then they get disappointed, and then maybe even they get depressed, So that's why I think maybe teachers also need to communicate in a little bit differently. That's what I'm saying, as a teacher, some teachers, they say, oh, it's a secret teaching, we cannot share like this. But if you finish Ngonjo, I can share, oh, you finished, but you are still not ready, right? Maybe instead of helping the student to work on themselves to do something, and you just say, okay, repeat the Ngonjo again and again. I think in the traditionally Ngondro is a psychotherapy. But today people, they don't see Ngondro as a psychotherapy. Maybe they need a modern style of psychotherapy too, right? And then again, the ones rushing, I want to get enlightened, give me the strongest mantra, give me the most powerful meditation. But normally those people, they are escaping from reality. This is a psychological issue. They are escaping reality. And most of people, they come like this. I know there's something wrong in their life, right? They want to prove their parents that they are good enough. They want to prove their friends that they are these ones. And, it's escaping from something in their life. And they really want to kind of prove themselves. In my life, I'm a loser, but in spiritual practice, I'm a winner, I'm this and that. So you see, we have to find the spiritual and psychological balance. But normally the one you are saying and rushing, okay, even it's this, I take time and I do retreat, I want the next one. They are, I think, the escapers from real life. But for them, they can realize that something is happening for themselves, right? And maybe with practice, if they realize something is wrong with their self and they try to deal with that first, and then they come back into the practice and they do the practices. So that's why I think these things, we need a more, clear understanding. Maybe individual cases are different too, right? Some people, they are very precise, perfectionist, they can get stuck too, right? Oh, I did prostration 50,000, but 10,000 I did with distraction. So I need to redo them again, If you are perfectionist, you get stuck there too. But then if a teacher says, okay, it's okay, you did the numbers, they say, no, number is not the thing, I need to have the quality too. So they have the reasons too, right? So that's why I think we need to find a balance, but at the end, the understanding, the communication between teacher and disciples are important, It's a fixable. But okay.
Thank you both very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to another Guru Viking podcast. For more interviews like these, as well as articles, videos, and guided meditations, visit www.guruviking.com.